support establishing a Georgia State Stormwater Authority?
Interesting question. From a person who lives and breathes that. I wouldn't necessarily create a separate agency. I would look at it as being part of, Georgia has a Department of Natural Resources or some other department where we can create a sub-department in that area. We don't need to be spending more money. We need to be shrinking government. Government should be closest to the people, i.e. our city of Johns Creek and Alpharetta. So I would, I would say that. I mean, there's so many issues, not just in Johns Creek, but all over the state. So it's a bigger issue than I might even understand. And, I've emailed you about it, so anyway, that's all I have to say.
Narendra, with stormwater runoff a major problem in every county in Georgia, would you support establishing a Georgia State Stormwater Authority?
I think in every county this happened because the leadership did not foresee these kind of things. This could be a better handled regional basis rather than the state. The moment everything goes to the state agency, it becomes a total bureaucratic, and that is the reason our transportation, particularly our transportation, is not doing so well, because it's only one authority at the state level, not the regional authorities. I think that such authority should be handled regional basis. For example, this is the 4 counties on this side, 4 counties on this side, they can work together and they can form a common agency for themselves. And if they have to do some taxing the people, they should be able to find a way to resolve this from the developers, maybe mostly. They can get some money from the developers and resolve that kind of issues. Thank you.
So now we're back to Betsy. Okay. So, you have stated your credentials. Why should we believe your actions will mirror your constituents' desires?
Because I have a proven record. People that have worked with me in the party and others in other areas as well know when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I want to listen to our constituents. It's not just, Betsy goes down to the State House. I need to be listening, I want to hear from the constituents, even the people that don't agree with necessarily our way of what we want to see. I'm imagining people call up and yell at you, and I'm just gonna go, thank you, and just take it down, or have whoever's answering my phones take notes. And I believe that my actions show where I stand, and that I've been proven. So I just think that's it. I mean, I don't know how else to put it.
Narendra, you have stated your credentials. Why should we believe your actions will mirror your constituents' desire?
Say that last part, please.
Why should we believe your actions will mirror your constituents' desires? The registered voters.
I have no other agenda other than I want to serve the people. This is my kids are gone, my grandkids are there now. I could go and enjoy with my grandkids, but also I thought why I came into this race particularly is, in the last few years, if you notice, the country is going towards leftism, totally radical leftists. Parents going to the PTA meetings are dubbed as domestic terrorists, whereas people who are burning the Seattle, Atlanta, these kind of cities are branded as fighting for social justice. Whereas people who goes to the PTA meetings and just to see what the children are being taught in the schools, they are branded as a terrorist. This kind of leftist radical thing that is what pulled me in. About my credentials, My credentials are all public record. We started the bank, that is on the public record. My real estate business is on the public record. I am appointed by the governor 2003 to be on the board of Georgia Regional Transportation Authority. And now I've been on that board for last 18 years. And that itself shows that I can work with anybody because I'm continuing my position for the last 18 years with 3 governor administrations. So that itself is my proof of my credentials. How I am going to use for the Johns Creek citizenry and Johns Creek development, it is all business. We will operate, I will support anything that business related for the economy. Thank you.
Jill, you have stated your credentials. Why should we believe your actions will mirror your constituents' desires?
I'm standing here today because I wasn't happy with the way the GOP handled the election process, and as a poll worker, I wasn't happy about the way that people said they were going to do one thing and did another. I have consistently, throughout my life, done what I said I was going to do in a trustworthy manner and with transparency. Additionally, I do believe that in this day and age, if you're not willing to go against the grain and against party politics, stand up for what's right, for what your constituents want, then you're going to be dragged down the road and you'll be useless as a state representative. A good example would be, initially I wanted to support Bill 1013, House Bill 1013. I read the summary. I was impressed that we finally, with our Behavioral Health Council, brought all of these recommendations to the forefront. But after it was dug in and taken apart line by line by our constituents, and I learned some of the overreaching issues that the federal government might have, even if I wanted to vote for it, I would not, because my constituents are against it. It's time to go back to the drawing board. And I can make those hard decisions and do what the people want and not what the party wants.
I think Narendra is up next, correct? Yes.
What would you say?
Yes. Give me 1 second. There's a bunch of details. This is more general, so we'll go with this one for now. Narendra, what is your plan to help ensure election fraud never takes place in the area or state?
One thing we need to do is we stop sending the mail-in ballot applications without any request from the voters. And also the other one is take the drop boxes away from everywhere. Because these days we have the early voting for 3 weeks before the election. And if somebody cannot go and vote in those 3 weeks, they should not be voting at all. I feel that way. Because drop boxes is nothing but providing an opportunity for the voter harvesters who bring them and dump them middle of the night. And the real voters don't even know that their name was already used to get the ballots and they were already cast. So my condition would be take the ballot box out, don't send mail-in ballots without any specific request from a voter. Even that also should come with a photo ID and all kind of things. I'll give a simple example why people are so worried about providing the photo ID. In India, there are 800 million voters. That is almost 3 times to the American population. And they all have photo ID. Here some people say, oh, we can't afford a photo. Really? Since when America became that poor, a candidate cannot get a photo. These are nothing but excuses to dump all those harvested ballots. That is what happened in the last elections, as far as I know. Because that is one thing I believe in, that's what happened. That way they can take anything they want and they can they can put anybody in the office. This is not good for the country. Particularly this country is formed on the basis of the democratic values. So we need to continue them without giving scope for anyone to cheat in any election. Particularly, we have to secure the vote of the all legitimate voters.
Jill, What is your plan to help ensure election fraud never takes place in the area or state?
So the first week of March, I joined Garland Favorito and Voter GA, and I walked the halls of the State House and Senate and with Not My Data sticker on top. I don't know if all of you are aware, but the Secretary of State did a closed-door deal for $3.5 million with Salesforce, one of the most woke companies in our country, who also then would be placing our voter rolls into the cloud. That's unacceptable. Currently, our voter rolls are a giant mess. Putting them into Salesforce can only make it worse. We have an election integrity group that I work with every Thursday. One of the gentlemen in that group has been working diligently and came up with 11,780 duplicate votes. That's a voter roll problem. We have to clean up our voter rolls first and foremost. Secondly, we need to support bills in the House that stop the use of Dominion voting machines. We need to stop the use of a third party that will tabulate. When we tabulate in the polls, it goes to a third party that's then reported to the media. There's oftentimes issues, and we've all watched it in real time with the presidential election. There's lots of things that we need to do about securing our vote and making it easier to vote and harder to cheat. I'm going to be voting for any bill that gets rid of Dominion voting machines, installs sovereign software that we use here in the state of Georgia to keep track of our voter rolls. And if we need to, go back to paper ballots. I would not be against it.
Betsy,
All right.
what is your plan to help ensure election fraud never takes place in the area or state?
Okay, this happens to be in my wheelhouse, I guess. I've been working as a poll manager, as a poll watcher, and a poll worker, backwards. I just actually had to step down as being a poll manager for over a decade. That said, I have been, for 2020, I was in charge of over 600 poll watchers in which I collected in paperwork in which they saw stuff, that they saw, and sometimes they had to fill out affidavits, and I collected thousands of pieces of paper or emails, I should say, and photos that were taken, and that information was sent out to the cloud. I also, for the past 3 years, have been on the state GOP election confidence task force. And even though people think that the party is not doing anything, we are working. Right now, there's a bill that passed in the House that is being discussed next week in the Senate in regards to items that this confidence task force has put forth. In fact, SB 202 is based on work that we supplied to the legislators back in 2021. And it's not as easy as saying, I'm going to vote for something or I'm going to vote out something. You have to work with people and you have to have those relationships. And sometimes you are whipped into voting for something. Yes, I would love to see the Dominion machines gone, but that's $10 million that the state would have to go find. Thank you.
Jill, you're up next. Do you support critical race theory?
I do not support any teachings that are based on the divisiveness of teaching that one race is better than another. So no, I don't support CRT. I also don't support social emotional learning in our schools. Having a background working in mental health, I understand how pliable our children are, and I understand that our teachers are held to standards that they're asked to give teachable moments that they have to prove for their reviews and their supervision. We need to get rid of SEL in our schools. We need to get rid of CRT. And the way we're going to do that is to think about where our accreditations are coming from. Because right now, in the state of Georgia, when we had previously multiple accrediting bodies, they're now a conglomerate. one in particular, Cognia Inc., which is located in Alpharetta, serves the majority of our school districts. Their accreditations are based on the standards that the federal government hands down from the DOE, and those are then passed down to our schools. It's taught as DEI to our teachers for training, and then critical race theory is part of how they deliver that DEI. If we start looking at how we can become our own accrediting body as a state and be reciprocal with other states who are like-minded, we can get rid of those third parties and start to take back our school systems.
Betsy, do you support critical race theory?
No. That's a big no. Like, I don't believe in teaching children to hate one another, because you might be Asian, you might be white or blonde, and you might have dark hair. That to me, I grew up, like I already said, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. We became colorblind. Not to the extent that everybody is just totally, racism is not there, but when you're teaching the children that you're inherently racist because you're white, that's detrimental to a kid. Now, that said, I think that where we need to really start is the educating of our teachers. They're putting out teachers that are being taught this stuff. And yeah, the accreditation probably needs to be looked at, but at the same time, it's going to take probably a generation to actually pull that stuff out of our education system. Or our parents just need to start homeschooling and pull your hair out doing it. But I think anybody who homeschools is a special person. And I think people just need to walk away from schools and demand that these things aren't being taught. And that said, I would vote to change our curriculum for sure.
Narendra, do you support critical race theory?
Absolutely not. Actually, that is one of the reasons I got into this election, because I was getting frustrated. Because a long time back when I sent my children to the schools, I expect them to learn science, math or technology, not about the races. Because as an adult we may have some prejudices, but why do we corrupt the young minds? That too from the beginning. When I see my grandchildren playing on the playground with all colors and all those mix, everyone is different and all that, that gives me happiness, that gives me hope. America is there. America is accomplishing this equality on real basis. So this real CRT thing they are introducing is always divide and rule. That is the only way Democrats know. Because they cannot come to us as a package. They cannot come to us say, don't look at the color, just vote for us. No. They will come to me because I look like a Democrat for them. Not now anymore, because they know, all of them know that I'm a strong Republican for 30 years. So, critical race theory is not going to be there in any school. That's what they are saying now. But believe me, they're going to rebrand it, recirculate it in the schools. So, your school board members should be watching for that kind of faculty who may not brand the CRT as a CRT, but they will continue to teach. If you look at it even in the college, Ivy League schools, that's what they're doing. The faculty is the worst kind of faculty. They came up with these ideas. They indoctrinate all these children and young men in the universities and schools. We need to put a stop to that one. So don't take it anything for granted just because they say CRT is not there anymore. Watch it. Every time there is raises its head, crush it.
Betsy, we begin with you. 2 parts. Would you ever support a shutdown of the economy or mask and vaccine mandate in the future? Would you fight to stop it if there was an executive order from the governor to implement such restrictions in the future?
That is a great question, and I would say I would fight it, because what I saw, I was stuck at home we all were, but I was sick, and Family Matters required me to sort of hibernate. And I just was like seeing devastation among people. And what we did was uncalled for. I mean, I've lived through other pandemics. Other people have lived through pandemics. I mean, and we've never shut down. It was used to manipulate people, and actually the goal of people is probably to have one world order. And I mean, it might be crazy, but people, it's all about control and having the finger or your thumb, not your finger, your thumb on people. So I would fight, and if the governor signed a bill, I'd be like, hey, Governor so-and-so, this is wrong, and I wouldn't support it.
Narendra, would you ever support a shutdown of the economy or mask and vaccine mandates in the future? And would you fight to stop it if there was an executive order from the governor to implement such restrictions in the future?
Vaccine mandates are really confusing in the sense that how can anybody tell you to take a medicine that is still under trial on clinical basis? Don't get me wrong, I took my 2 vaccines plus booster shot. I was first in the line because I believed in it. But you cannot force everybody to say, no, you have to take it. Particularly human tendencies, the moment they say you have to, they will say, I don't have to. So if you want to really implement the healthcare policy that way to prevent the viruses and all that, educate them. But how can you impose on them as a mandate? Government is not going to control my life. If I want to die, I should be able to die. Why the heck are you going to tell me not to die? If I want to get virus and kill myself, so be it. That will be fun for me, but not for you. So, these mandates, I don't know who created that. Particularly, I saw the mandate issued even in some hospitals where healthcare workers were taken out of their jobs just because they could not get the vaccine. But those healthcare workers knows better than us exactly about why they didn't take the vaccine. But doesn't mean that they did not go outside and tell everybody, hey, don't take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine. They never said that. So these kind of things somebody is creating, these are very bad for us. It's not going to help us, but it is only going to hurt us. Thank you.
Jill, would you ever support a shutdown of the economy or mask and vaccine mandates in the future? And would you fight to stop it if there was an executive order from the governor to implement such restrictions in the future?
First of all, a mandate is not a law. And we the people have the right to not comply with that which we did not legislate. So no, I wouldn't support that. And I would lead a fight to make sure that people understand what their rights are, what their constitutional rights are, so that we can stand up and not let this happen again. We are not sheeple. We are taking back our time in the legislature, person by person, and if you elect a patriot and not a politician, we won't continue to have these problems.
Narendra, you're up next. So the question I have for you is, if you are the final winner of House District 50 representative, it's 2 parts. Is this a career opportunity for higher office? And 2, will you be more concerned with the House District 50 voters or following the party plan?
The question is, if I'm using this as a stepping stone for higher offices. Look at where I am. I have grandkids. How many higher offices I can go? First, let me do this job and make an impact on the Johns Creek city that we elected a right person for the right job. That is what I want to prove. I want to make sure that continuously the Johns Creek economic growth is going to continue, and I want to make sure that Johns Creek values are not pandered or not interrupted by anybody like Michelle or anyone. So that is what I'm going to do, because I'm happy in the Johns Creek. I'm going to continue to do this job, and I will make sure that everyone is happy. Maybe if once I elected, next term there won't be any primary, any Democrat opposition either. That kind of accomplishments I'm going to do. Thank you.
Jill, if you are the final winner of House District 50 Representative. Part 1, is this a career opportunity for higher office? And 2, will you be more concerned with the House District 50 voters or following the party plan?
Well, since 2010, I've had my own business, Patriot Promotions, where I was the person behind the candidates and behind the 2A supporters and behind people like Chris Kyle and the folks on Discovery Channel and other people who were fighting for our rights. I never planned on stepping into this position. I was asked to step into this position, and I'm here to represent the people's will. We need a strong person to stand up against Michelle Au and the left agenda that she's bringing with her. They have unlimited funds, and they don't represent Johns Creek. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or if you're Republican. The things that they're bringing forth in our state Senate and our state House are not what we want. It's a small bunch of apples trying to rule the few. So I'm in this position because we need somebody in this position who can win against Michelle Au, and I hope that I can earn your vote and represent you for State House District 50.
I believe we go to Naranda. Sorry, that's it? Sorry. Okay. I knew I get screwed up. Do you support an election audit of the November 2020 and January 2021 election?
I haven't answered that question.
No, we didn't know. It was a different question than the last one.
Right.
It
Sorry about
wasn't about
that.
the
If you are the final winner of House District 50,
Oh, that.
representative,
Yeah.
is this a career opportunity for higher office, or will you be more concerned part 2 is, will you be more concerned with House District 50 voters or following the party plan?
Great question. It took a lot of thought for me to run for this position. I was not thinking of ever really running. People have been asking me to step up and run for over a decade. When are you running? When are you running? Well, I saw after November election that I helped get our city council members and mayor elected by a landslide. I was just talking out loud to my husband, and he was like talking to me, and we're like, yeah, maybe. But to me, this is not a stepping stone. I'm retired. I'm looking at this as a civic duty for me to go down to the State House and do what's right and fight for people in Johns Creek and do the right thing. I am not just a whipping person where, you need to say, vote this and this and that. If they want me to vote a certain way and I'm not going to want to vote, I'm going to the Speaker's house and Speaker's office and saying, I either vote no or I'm going to not vote at all and abstain. So to me, I'm not looking to go run for the Senate or run for a statewide position. I'm going to stay maybe, a few cycles and then hopefully mentor someone to come behind me. Thank you.
Jill, do you support an election audit of the November 2020 and January 2021 elections?
Yes. In fact, I helped create one of 5 resolutions from the Forsyth County GOP that actually called on Governor Kemp, who has the ability to do this. We called on the Secretary of State for it and our legislators. It fell on deaf ears. It basically went nowhere, but that doesn't mean we're not working on it. Just because our party isn't doing its part to get an audit for the 2020 and 2021 elections, citizens have come together and are doing the audit. And as I said before, I'm working on multiple election integrity with multiple groups. We delivered 46,000 affidavits of maladministration with Mike Lindell and Preserve Georgia Rights when I spoke at the Grassroots Freedom Festival down at the state capitol last month. In February, we did that. You wouldn't have heard that in the news. We're doing everything we can to tell our Republican leadership that that we want an audit. It shouldn't be up to the citizens to have to